Welcome back to Stockwatch, and joining me live in the studio we have Datuk Dr Zainal Aznam, who before the break was talking about efforts to bring back, to start the GST in the 2010 budget. Now also we were answering a question from Victor Aoyong, who asked about corporate income tax versus personal income tax. What are your thoughts there, Datuk?
I think the point being made by Victor, I think the differential between the income and the corporate tax, which is not the same, and that has led to or will lead to what people call a distortion in the tax system. Because if your individual income, if your corporate income tax is lower than your individual income tax, then there will be a rush and people setting up dummy companies and fuzzy companies and claiming income tax at a lower rate, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if that particular avenue is going to be either closed or very, very soon, I think. Yeah. It's not a very huge distortion, but still I think it's a discrepancy between the corporate and the individual income tax.
So you do foresee that the government will do something about it this year?
It has been mentioned over in previous tax years too.
Okay, now coming to the wish list again, another request from the people was, especially from government servants, the likelihood of bonuses this year, especially considering how the economy has fared.
Yes. Well, I would say between the demand and the realistic demand of trying to really be very severe in this particular budget, that means trying to contain the fiscal deficit, and the realistically populist demand, I think they have to balance that out. I wouldn't be surprised if there will be a concession again this year, where at least a month's bonus, I think, is on the cards, I think, for public civil servants, which is very, very big. It's close to 1 million people, will be enjoying this hope-to-be bonus for at least a month, I think. So I very much doubt that will be taken away, I think, by the government in this budget, I think.
Especially since it's Datuk Sri Najib's maiden budget.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Okay, let's move on to what the sectors might benefit, how they might benefit from the budget. Now, what sectors might benefit most from incentives in line with Datuk Sri Najib's vision for Budget 2010?
I hope that this is the last budget for the 9 Malaysia plan, but a lot of talk is about moving on to a high-income economy, and that will start, I think, with the next year's budget of 2011, so to speak. But I think they should make a start with this year's budget. I think one of the key needs of moving up to the high-income economy is you need to really somehow incentivize your human capital part. Human capital play a very crucial role in moving Malaysia up to the high-income league of nations in the country. So you must think of new ways of how to devise new tax system to encourage the development of creativity, value-addedness, new sources of economic growth, which will generate the high income that we require. So these are all part of the bigger package. And you can't just do it in one budget, of course, because the target of moving up to the high income economy is over the period up to 2020. But I think they must sit down rationally and think through about the fiscal policy components of a high-income economy. And I hope this year, for 2010 budget, I think, they start thinking along that line and see how fiscal policy, on the revenue side and the expenditure side, could be utilized in a more coherent way to push up the economy towards a high-income status.
Now, the construction sector has already put out their wish list in the media. They're actually requesting for a reduction or waiver of stamp duties and levies. Do you think the government will consider such a request?
I wouldn't be surprised if there be concession made to the construction sector. Although the contribution of construction to GDP is not that huge, I think it's less than 10%, but the spillover effects in cushioning the economy and lifting it up out of the recession, I think, can be quite significant. Right? The big spillovers of construction activities into the manufacturing side. It's just not building the building itself. It's the workers, the wages, the steel, the cement, and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there would be a concession, I think, to the requests made by the construction people.
Okay, we've got time for just about one last question, and of course, like last year, the DAP has come up with its own alternative budget again, focusing on improving the management of the government's money, and reducing bureaucracy. Which of these ideas that they've presented this year do you like personally?
Well, I'm not surprised. I think some people would argue theoretically that there can be a convergence between opposing parties in terms of certain policy matters. And the fact that the so-called alternative budget DAP is arguing much more on institutional matters, I think, at the moment, about delivery system and the sharing of federal and state revenue, I think which the government also, I think, is thinking along. I think not exactly along the same line, but in a different language, they're talking about the delivery system, more efficient ways to collect revenue and all that. There's still gaps. I think it's more or less about the same, but using different language. The other more contentious one, of course, is the alternative budget of the DAP, looking at the sharing of all revenue, Kelantan, Terengganu, and Sabah, and Sarawak. I think that's a much more contentious issue, I think. But in principle, I think it's a very timely time to relook again at the whole constitutional basis of the sharing of revenues from oil and other resources between the federal government and the state. I think things have changed so dramatically over the last couple of years that if you want to move the economy up to the high-income economy, you have to relook at some fundamental issues. And for a budget, I think the fiscal policy of the sharing of revenue is a fundamental issue.
Okay, thank you so much for your thoughts, Datuk Dr Zainal Aznam.
Right.
It's always a joy to have you on board.
Thank you.
That was economist Datuk Dr Zainal Aznam joining us live here in our studio. And that's about all the time we have for Stockwatch for tonight. If you have any questions about investing or even the economy that we can help you with, please don't hesitate to email us at stockwatch@tv3.com.my. Also, don't forget to catch any interviews you may have missed, including this one, at our new blog, stockwatchproducer.blogspot.com. On behalf of our team, have a great investing week ahead. Until next week, same time, same channel, I'm Shani Imanli. Good night.